Hi, Brent Bode here again from the Marquette PT Clinic. Wanted to talk a little bit about what does a comprehensive strength training program look like specific to runners. I usually tell my runners that I see in the clinic, if they can at least do at the bare minimum twice a week of like 20 minutes of some specific exercises, you can get a really good bang for your buck. Obviously you can do more than that 3 times a week, 30 minutes to an hour, but at the bare minimum, try to get that twice a week for 20 minutes. What I find is a lot of times people have been able to get away with not doing this component of their program, and they just have been able to run. And then once they start to try to ramp up mileage, they're training for a longer run, then their body starts to break down because they don't have this component in their training. Or they've started to get a little bit older. And in their 20s, they could get away with running, with just running and not having any strength training. Maybe in their 30s, most people by the time they get to their later 30s or into their 40s, they start feeling issues because they don't have this component. So it is an essential component that every runner has to have. So there's a couple areas I try to emphasize, 3 in particular, that are specific to what running requires of somebody. So number 1 is a prolonged hold core type exercise. A lot of times people, when they are doing core stuff, they tend to emphasize more of doing sit-ups and things like that, which I don't see it as relating as well to running. That is more of an endurance type activity that requires from your core. So prolonged hold core exercises, we'll go through that. Second area is running is essentially a single leg balance activity. You're transferring from one leg to the other leg and moving your way down the road. So you want to make sure you have really good single leg balance stability. The third area is hip strengthening. If you pick up any runner's world, you're going to have, what are the latest, best hip exercises for runners? And it's because there's really good research to support the use of hip strengthening for runners, and there's a lot of really good stuff out there. So particularly the muscles on the outside of your hips. When you're balancing on one leg, the muscles on the outside of your hips are the ones that help stabilize your pelvis. They control what's going on in your movement. If you can keep those strong and have really good endurance, you're going to be able to limit a lot of issues. So let's go back to that prolonged hold core exercise first. So the first one that I like is a plank. And most people have done planks before. I have slight variations that I like. So what I do is I like going on my hands. You can go on your elbows, that's okay. What I like to emphasize is a little bit more of a tabletop where my hips are at about the same height as my shoulders. And I also like to make sure that my belly button's not dipping down towards the ground. I like to really pull in that belly button and keep it flat. And you can just do a nice prolonged hold for about a minute like that in that position. I like doing side planks as well. You can do these straight out on your legs like this, and try to balance on your arm there or down on your elbow. Try to keep that straight line through your trunk. Make sure you're not dipping this way, and make sure you're not rotating out of it this way either. Same thing, 30 seconds to a minute of that. Flip over, do the other side. And then another one that I really like would be on your back. And I like to call these the rotisserie exercises, because you go on your stomach, your side, your back, and then your other side. You're just kind of rotating through it as you do it. So go on your back here, and just from this position, what I really like to emphasize is just that little bit of a lift at my tailbone. That really engages your abdominal muscles a lot differently than if you keep it flat like that. So try to just do that little lift, pull your toes back towards you. You can just do a hold in this position, and that can be really good. And you can also try to do just a little gentle rotation like that, where you're bringing your elbow towards your opposite side as you're holding up like that. But just your prolonged hold from this position is really valuable as well. So then, talking about those exercises, strengthening the outside of the hip, we're going to be from this position. I like to have this leg just bent up a little bit. This oftentimes works really well to have your back up against the wall to make sure that your leg is staying back in this position as you lift and lower, just nice and slow up and down like that. Make sure your toes not going up, make sure your leg's not drifting forward. You keep that heel against the wall. And from this position, you can have your head nice and supported and just lifting up and then lowering back down just to parallel. Don't let it go all the way down in between each repetition. And keep your shoulder a little bit forward just to make sure that you're not rotating out like that. And trying to go for a good, 3 sets of 10 with that, so you get some nice fatigue out of it, and that'll really build up that endurance. Another good exercise for strengthening up the outside of your hips like we were talking about is this exercise. The one putting a band, I like putting it just above your knees. Some variations have it down at the ankles. You probably have seen this or potentially done it yourself already. So what I like to do is get down into a little bit of a squat position. I really like to emphasize that my butt's going back, almost like I'm taking a little bow forward or my butt's going to a chair. Really make sure that those knees aren't going too far forward. That can put a lot of stress on your kneecaps. So I'm going down into that position, and I'm going to just work on sidestepping like that. The trick is, as people start to get fatigued, they tend to start coming more upright like that with your trunk. Try to stay down into that loaded position. And you can see as I'm stepping, I'm not letting my feet come all the way back together in between each repetition. Keep tension on there. Really think about pulling your knees apart as you do it. Don't let your knees bow in like this. Keep them nice and strong there. And that'll be another really good one to strengthen up the outside of those hips. All right, so we've covered the endurance exercise as far as the core goes. We've talked about strengthening the outside of the hips. Now we want to talk about some of that single leg balance stability stuff. So I think it's good to start with either your finger on a wall or if you have a dowel or something like that, just to give yourself a little bit of stability. So the first exercise is balancing on that leg. What you want to make sure is that your waist stays nice and parallel to the ground, that it's not tipping like this as you do this. Same thing with your knee. You don't want it going all over the place. You want to slide your leg back, just like keeping your toe about an inch off the ground as you do this. You're just sliding back and trying to reach as far back as you can, and I fall there, so that's why I've got this thing to help me. And then I come like that, and when I first start doing it, just doing this will work really well. As you get more comfortable with it, bringing it all the way up into a march like that at the end of the repetition. My balance is not good on this side. It tends to work really well driving up like that. And then you can also do the same thing, but your leg going out to the side. So nice and stable. This is going to be a little more challenging. Making sure your trunk, it's nice because you can see my zipper line, making sure that is staying fairly vertical as I do this. You could cheat and reach your leg really far out to the side, but you see that zipper line is way going off to the side. Keep it straight vertical there, kicking in your core muscles to keep your pelvis level and parallel to the ground. You're reaching out to the side. Your butt is going back, your knee's not going forward, so you're really loading there, and then you're coming back up. Thanks a lot for watching this video. And if you do end up getting hurt and you're trying to implement all these things, obviously we're here for you to help. Please contact us, give us a call, email, and we'll try to figure out the best solution together. It might include an in-clinic visit or a telehealth visit.